what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by, in no particular order, Stephen Chess, Anthony Riley, Nummy Num Num, John, and Arwin. How are you all doing, gentlemen?
All is good, sir.
Excellent.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Late debate edition.
It is. I went to a dog show.
Yeah, how was it?
It was good. I mean, I'm not into dogs, not in the slightest, but my kid loves dogs, so it made sense. She loved it, watching them dance and walk on two paws, dancing
It was a
backwards
trick
and things.
show, basically.
Yeah, like tricks. They're judges there and gave out rosettes and things for the best one. But yeah, it was good fun. So, no predictive capabilities for the globe then, eh?
No, and we've got the rumpus backtracking as well.
Backtracking?
I've just sent you a picture on Skype, Nathan.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, just present it, and whilst you're presenting it or getting it on screen, I'm going to find the or re-find the part where I asked Rumpus specifically to do something, and he agreed, because it appears that he's now backtracking, and it appears that he didn't agree to make a prediction at all. It now appears that he simply agreed to model, and I was like, "What do you mean model? I never asked you to model anything." But he's told Glenn Ruhif that he only agreed to model, and Ruhif now thinks that I'm moving the goalposts. So let's quash that one. Let's show exactly what was agreed, what was asked of him, and what he agreed to. But I'm gonna have to go back and find it, because the minute I moved off it, it flicked off and I lost it. But bear with me while I go back and find it. But
Well, very typical. I'd like to remind everyone that I predicted it, that he would that he wouldn't do it. Guess I have
He's still
better
there, Anthony.
predictive capabilities than his well.
Are you still there?
yeah, me, yeah.
Yeah, can you just read out what's on screen?
Yes. Let me make this bigger so I can see it. Right, so Ruhif has said, quote, "So Rumpus has come back and said that he did not agree to predict the time of day. In fact, all he agreed to was to model it using their new software. Interesting, Anthony," implying that I've misrepresented what was agreed. So I responded and said, "I asked him to tell me the necessary conditions to see the floaty land from the beach. From the prediction, we would be able to deduce the time of day, as on the factors of the prediction is one of the factors for the prediction is temperature and humidity, and 2 of the 4 factors makes it quite easy for us and for him. He failed to predict that simple. He said it doesn't matter what you asked him, it matters what he agreed to." So that this is the basis now for the backtrack claim that the Rumpus is trying to do. Now, this is one message that I sent, and Nathan said it's not complete enough. You need a better one. But I said, don't forget, on Thursday, just gone, so a couple of days ago, I said, don't forget, Saturday's show, make sure you're there, Mr. Know-It-All. Looking forward to your conditions prediction based on the predictive nature of your model, right? I didn't ask for a model. I asked for the predictions based on the predictive nature of your model. You didn't challenge it there. I should be there. I said, good man. It goes out to the convention today. Now, obviously, Nathan put the video out showing that it did, in fact, go out to the convention. So it's not as if I'm withholding it. I'm just withholding it from them whilst Rumpus makes his prediction. So if you just give me 2 minutes whilst I find the actual the link where Rumpus actually was asked, specifically that thing, and I'll come back to you. So just bear with me.
No worries.
Ah, got it. Right, let me stick it back on screen. Entire screen. Yeah, we'll do that. Right, so let's... Right, can you see my screen now?
I can. It's a bit
It's
small.
a bit
You'll have
small.
to read it.
It's the biggest I can get it.
Oh, no worries. Just read it. You could see it on a decent screen, I'm sure.
I said, by the way, I don't know. This is on Tuesday, so 2 days before the last message. By the way, how are you going to explain the floaty land from the beach, 1 foot from the water? Pontificate. I said it's coming out as an exclusive on the convention on Friday. Nathan's on Saturday, and hopefully Globebusters on Sunday, unconfirmed at this point. Well, I will look, but I will be able to explain it as I can for all of your observations. You remember what I'm referring to when I said the floaty land, right? The hills at Bride. Yup. Height of its tippy tops is 320 feet. Yup, I think. And from the beach, a foot above water, it should be 600 feet or so behind the curve, double its actual height. Let me check. And I said 34 miles, 1 feet above water, 710 refractive hidden. Paul Voigt and Sly asked for it from the beach. They have their request. How are you going to explain this? I am looking at info. I will have to look at the footage to determine your height and position. And now that I and Philip can model stuff pretty exactly, better than the Metabunk calculator, I'm sure that we'll be able to explain that observation. I said, don't worry, there'll be no doubt I'm on the sand. I show the mound of sand I used to act as a tripod in one action. Yep. Well, you've been 100% wrong on everything you've done so far. This will be another example, I have no doubt. But also, I and Philip are armed with an atmospheric model which copes with inversion layers and different atmospheric conditions. When did you take this footage? The night before last. So it's right after I got it. At what time? Now, this is the issue, right? At what time? Does it matter? It affects the tide and the weather conditions, which affects the refraction conditions. And I said, well, the tide won't matter. I was 1 inch or 2 above the water. You can have a foot. He actually did his observation. He's done his work based on a meter, right? But I gave him a foot, but it was literally inches above water. But he's done it on a meter. So that's disingenuous in the first instance. But this is what he says. Well, I will want to know the time so I can determine the weather conditions which affect refraction conditions. And I said, but it won't give you any evidence of the weather conditions. So no, I don't see why it would make any difference at all. Well, I can get the conditions from weather resource, info, pressure, temp, etc. that affect refraction. I bet you've got confused as to what you are looking at. And I said, why don't you tell me what you would need the conditions to be and predict the conditions necessary to satisfy this evidence? Floaty land from on the sand. And then, nope, Nathan, Chris Monk, Ranty, Issa, and basically everybody agrees we do see the floaty land. What a bunch of non-entities. But basically, this is the point. It says, where is it?
Keep going, just keep reading.
Well, it's the prediction bit, isn't it? It's the prediction bit that I'm really most interested in. Where is it? There we go. So I said, why don't you tell me what you would need the conditions to be and predict the conditions necessary to satisfy this evidence? Floaty land from on the sand. I didn't ask him to model. He didn't agree to model. So if Ruhif is saying it doesn't matter what was said, it matters what he agreed to, then this is what was agreed. This is what he was working on. He was working on a prediction based on the conditions that would be necessary to satisfy the evidence, which shows floaty land from on the sand. Nathan's seen it. Arwen's seen it. John's not seen it yet, but you guys have seen it. You've seen it. You've seen it. You know that it's you. You guys both agree with me that it is the floaty land and it is from on the sand, right?
Oh yeah.
Good. I thought you were going to leave me hanging for a minute. So the point is that was what the message was. Why don't you tell me what you would need the conditions to be and predict the conditions necessary to satisfy this evidence, right? So with regards to Ruhif now being told that he agreed to model it, that isn't what was agreed. That isn't what was asked of him. He was clearly asked to make a prediction about the conditions necessary to satisfy the evidence. There was no mention of modeling. He's literally lying.
Yesterday, Nummy was asking him to retract that he'd make a prediction, and he refused point blank because we were basically saying this is about the predictive capabilities of your model, And if it can't do it, simply retract that you can make a prediction. And he refused point blank when Nummy challenged him to do so.
Yeah, and the other thing that Glenn or Ruhif thinks that my best position would be to rise above it and show the evidence anyway. And I don't really want to do that because I don't want to be seen as moving the goalposts or being unreasonable with the rumpus. Fundamentally, he was offered the opportunity to get to explain and to make a prediction on his model to account for the evidence that they made me go back and get. I went back and got it, and it's make the prediction. What would the conditions be necessary to see what we see in the evidence? Well, he claims I didn't show him the evidence. That's true, and I wouldn't tell him the time. But I'm not inaccurate when I say we see floaty land from the beach lay down a foot above the water. Well, a few inches above the water line. I'm not being inaccurate. And he says, yes, but I need to see pixels. No, you only need to know that it's behind 700 feet of geometric curvature. And that's what you need to explain on your model. So the ray trace that you have, which were the conditions that you were putting into your thing to be able to see that. That's what I want to know. Unless you've just made them lines up, which is what I actually now suspect he's done. I think he just put the lines on. I don't think he's got any mathematics to support them whatsoever. And if he has, he should be dead proud as punch.
Correct. I asked him what the height in terms of feet that would be obscured and hidden would be. And he said, well, there's a possibility he can see all the way to the beach. Now, if he's got it in a ray tracing program and has calculated how much you can see, you should be able to just give it me in feet. He didn't. He refused. Again, he's not giving us any predictions. He gave us absolutely nothing. And then threw out a random prediction about whether or not you could see a mirage, whether or not it would be squashed. And to be honest, I couldn't give a damn about any of that. We want to know whether or not his model is capable of actually predicting this stuff. And he says it is, this new model that he's just created from scratch to account for this very specific observation. He's not just going to a globe model. You've got to be joking. Now, I want to get a disclaimer in here. As much as this is all good fun, and it's nice toying with Rumpus, this is folly. This is spurious. What we are talking about here is their idol. We're not talking about anything that actually proves anything at all. We are simply humouring them and letting them demonstrate their failure with their pseudoscience model. Models do not prove what the shape of the Earth is. They are simply models. That's all they are. They don't prove anything at all.
Well, I've been following this for the last couple of days now. And one thing that I drew from everything was the fact that Rumpus had been doing his model on the wrong day.
Probably.
I think that was a deliberate error as well, Ranty. I think that... Oh, look, I've got the number wrong. Yeah, right. Like you accidentally plugged in the wrong figure in terms of 35 feet, something we'd argued about for ages when we were on Steve's show. He puts in deliberate errors so that he's got weasel room afterwards. He's just a worm.
Yeah, I mean, he'd come up with this prediction that it was 7 degrees. Was it 9 degrees or something? And 14 degrees, and there was a discrepancy, and this, that, and the other. But he was basing it on a date that was the wrong data set. So he was doing it on, I think, the 21st, and it should have been the 24th, or the 24th, and it should have been the 21st, whichever. So whatever he's been doing is complete. It's up the wall. It's completely wrong because he's been doing the wrong data. So you should have let him present, and then you should have ripped into him afterwards because you could have said, well, that's very good of you, but ultimately those data that you've got there, it's all wrong because it's the wrong date.
Yeah, but the thing is, Ranty, he didn't actually present. He spent an hour and 30 minutes literally trying to tell us why he wouldn't present.
Yeah, well, that was why, because he'd modelled everything on the wrong date, and that's why he wouldn't present to you. Because if he had have done, his data would have been all over the place, right? So you would have instantly picked up on it. So he's done all this work on the wrong day, basically, and that's why he wouldn't present.
Deliberately, I feel, just another deliberate error, so you can say, "Oh, actually, I was doing it on the wrong day." Now that I've got all the information I need, now I've got 20/20 hindsight, I'll go and correct that error. Oh, here we go. That's where I went wrong. When he back engineers it and picks a different cherry off the tree, as Arwin put it.
Well, I have to say that ultimately I saw the evidence that Anthony produced. I think he showed it me a couple of days after he'd actually filmed it, and it is fantastic. That's what I will say. And I've seen where he took his observation from. I know exactly where it was because it shows it in the video. And so anybody that says that they're waiting to see this evidence, I can assure you that it is there.
Yeah,
it's been, no,
not
you
only
don't
that.
need to give any assurances. It's been displayed to the public. The public has seen it at the Flat Earth Convention. So it's not like we're holding this information back. It has been displayed to the public. They've all seen it. So far from it. You don't need to make any disclaimers in that regard. However, Rumpus made it clear yesterday that by not making a prediction, he would effectively censor this information from YouTube audiences. So Rumpus is content to censor this information to cover his failings to make a prediction using the globe model. So that's the situation we're in. We need to make no disclaimers.
Well, here it is, right? You have a model that predicts when the ISS is going to traverse the moon at a certain time, certain day, this, that, and the other. If you look up, you can see an object pass through the vision between yourself and the moon, right? So that's a prediction and that's a model, right? So you're just doing the same thing. What you're saying is...
No, it's not.
No, what you're saying is you now have a model that can predict when I should be able to see the furthest point on this particular date. So now you have the date. Tell me at what time of that day would I have been able to see the furthest and have optimum vision to see around the curve. And that's what Anthony's challenged him to do. And he won't produce the evidence because firstly, he was working on the wrong day. And secondly, he won't be able to do it.
Yeah,
Well,
and we're not worthy. Remember that.
Yeah.
Model's the right word.
Listen. You guys are using these terms in the wrong context. That ISS nonsense, that is not a model. It's not a prediction either. A model is pseudoscience. It's a hypothesis with limited validity. A scientific prediction is interactions between independent and dependent variables. A hypothesis. This is all nonsense. You're using these terms out of context. It's not even wrong. It's preposterous.
I don't think he used the word scientific. He's just referring to a model, right?
That's what I'm talking about. This isn't science. What are we doing here?
But some parts of this conversation are not science, right?
Yeah, we're not trying to make a prediction here. We're testing their prediction.
They don't have that's what I'm talking about. They don't have a prediction. What is this, Mystic Meg?
Yeah, and we're enjoying taking the piss out of him, basically. That's what it is.
But
Nathan's essentially said this.
You're humoring, you're enabling him.
Yeah, but John...
You're enabling him to fail.
He claims
to get the date right.
All right, you're enabled him to fail. As soon as he agreed to a model or a prediction, it indicted him right there. It burned himself at the stake.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, let me state my position, right? I've been dying to get this out, and I want this to go out ASAP. However, I'm going to get, regardless of what Rumpus does or does not do, I'm going to reveal it tomorrow anyway, because I want everyone to be aware that Rumpus was simply asked to make the prediction for the conditions, and he did agree to do it. However, he's now saying he wants to model it, and that he may well try and censor me. Well, he won't be censoring me. It'll just be chalked up as a failing, and it'll be advertised as such. And anytime that anybody claims that the model has predictive capability, we'll remind them that the Rumpus had the opportunity to make the prediction, and he couldn't do it, and basically failed. So they won't be able to claim in future that their model has predictive capabilities because the Rumpus has messed it up. So it'll be coming out tomorrow.
To back engineer it. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
That's all they can do.
It's more of what you call a logical consistency test, right? Like, it's seeing if the results are logically consistent with what their idea of how things work is.
Right. Well, let's just see how honest Rumpus is. He knows that he can make the prediction. He claims that he has the prediction. He just won't make it until I reveal the info. Now that's just going to allow you to back engineer the maths. So we'll see how honest Rumpus is, and we'll see whether he sticks to his word of 48 hours, and that'll be tomorrow. We all know that he won't.
Yeah, well, I think that apart from the whole drama with the Rumpus, I'm really looking forward to seeing this footage getting out there because it's just very interesting.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Quite stunning.
I've never seen anything like it.
That's the thing as well. 700 feet behind a geometric curve, right, without any atmospheric conditions. And Rumpus doesn't like that because he has to account for it. But he thinks that I think that, there's no such thing as an atmosphere. Then that's what he actually thinks. No. But we know that the standard refraction calculator is only ever right a couple of frames a day. It's a rough approximation. Sure, well, how valuable is that really to us?
I don't think it's right a couple of frames a day.
Well, I would even argue less than that, to be honest.
I don't think it's right at any point in the day. There's absolutely no evidence that it's ever right, because it assumes R, right?
Correct.
So I don't know why you're
John's
saying
point.
that it.
That's exactly John's point. So as soon as you get into the refraction maths or discussing the model, you're letting them beg the question. You're letting them assume R, and you're letting them assume that you live on a sphere. And I think John's point is that by humouring him, yeah, we know we're just toying with him, but the audience might be under the deluded impression that if he wins, let's say he gets the prediction right, let's say he comes back and he says, right, it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and you've obviously got stacked images, that's my prediction based on the atmospheric temperatures required, and therefore the time is 3 a.m. And he comes back and he's absolutely spot on, right on the money. It still proves nothing. Doesn't suddenly mean we live on a sphere. It's still just a pseudoscience model, and it's still assuming the radius. That's the whole point. It still begs the question. It starts off with us on a sphere by making these measurements. So Nummy's absolutely right, smack on the money. Yes, none of it's going to ever make sense in the metabunk calculation because it's assuming R to begin with. It assumes we're on a ball.
Correct. And that's obviously the point I dwelled on in the conference. I said, why should we even give it to them when they can't prove that it exists? And then I cited the thing that he said with the apples, where he said you can in maths. And I dwelled on that, and everyone laughed, and it was funny. If you haven't seen the latest video that Nathan put out from the conference, the 12-minute one, go and watch the way that I presented it. It was almost evangelical because I had to project my voice to the back. But listen to the laughing. You can in maths. Well, no, we're not giving you the 7/6R. We'll apply it when we're going to critically analyze our own work, because we know that's what you're going to do. But we don't accept that you can make this calculation based on 7/6R, because it does beg the question.
Yeah. Well, and Nathan, just to add to what you were saying there, I mean, what's interesting about things like this is that we can show that their model or their concept of the spinning globe in various ways, and also things like terrestrial refraction, are that when we take these observations, that they're not consistent with the model, right? And that their model is not consistent with itself. And that's why it's worthwhile to discuss things like, the underlying mechanism behind the atmosphere rotating with the Earth and the lack of Coriolis effect and things like that. Because if their model isn't self-consistent, then that means it's wrong by definition.
Well, let's just get it out of the way here. As long as he has to continually adapt his model, he doesn't have a model.
That's just what I was about to say, Arwin. Your example of him picking cherries off a tree is very true here. He's not going to some universal, all-encompassing, homogeneous model. He's just making one up as he goes along. This is something new he's doing.
It's back engineering an image, and he's basing his mathematical data on the image and not the other way around. So he doesn't have a model.
I don't even think he has mathematical data. Those ray trace lines that he had on his little diagram, the way he presented it made it sound like it was based on maths and conditions and the formula to do with the standard atmospheric the model. I don't even think there was any maths behind any of those lines. I think he just put them lines in to make it look like there was maths behind it. Because if he had maths behind it, he'd pick the ray that picks out the angle that we see the island, and he'd be dead proud as punch to show us the 4 variables that made them rays. But I don't think he's even got it. I think he's trying to make it look like he's got it, and that's why he can't commit to it, because he doesn't want us to realize that he's just drew the lines on and pretended that he's got the maths for it.
Exactly. Wow. If he had a model that worked.
No matter how many, he may have some sort of mathematical ideas that he can sort of give some citations for, but there's no physical basis for any of it. It's just a mathematical.
I don't even think he's got the maths. Otherwise, Rumpus, being the pompous guy he is, he would have been dead proud to show all of his workings out and to show the exact ray and exactly where it hit and exactly how it modeled and matched perfectly with his predictions. But he didn't do that. He tried to chivvy it, and because he said we weren't worthy. That's not the way I'd expect Rumpus to behave.
Nah, but I think that's not because he doesn't have any mathematical systems at all, but just because he doesn't want to give away like the system that he's using, so we can basically prove what system he was using, and then later when he's using another type of formula for another type of setup, then we can shove that into his face that he's basically not using the same consistent model. He's trying to hide that, I think.
I don't even think he's using a model. I think he's drew the lines on and made it look like he's done it. I'm calling him out on it. Why would he not present the one ray that goes to the point that we know that it needs to go to, and he knows it needs to go to?
Yeah, I called him when he had the model up. I said, "What's the height in feet that you can see to?" And he's like, "Well, there's a possibility you can see all the way to the beach." It's like, well, that's so vague as to leave you with enough wiggle room. Those lines are meaningless then. Otherwise, you'd say, well, this line is the line of sight that you can actually see. It takes you down to 100 feet above the sea level. Or whatever.
Yeah, but let's remember, though, his model doesn't predict that you could possibly see to the base of the island. His model predicts it should be 700 feet below the horizon. That's what his model predicts.
Right. The model he was saying yesterday that was the one that was the worst case scenario and the most inaccurate, the one literally described as the most inaccurate model, was the actual sphericity of his model. The actual circumference of the Earth being accounted for was the one he declared was the most inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Just to try this. Instead of using model in science, just use the actual meaning of those words. So anytime you say model, say pseudoscience, and every time you have the word science, say the scientific method. Just try it for a couple times and then complete your sentence and see how ridiculous it is. Thanks.
No, but
Bye.
a model is basically, it is pseudoscience, but pseudoscience is not a model. So you can't use it in the same context, really.
Oh, yes, I can. It's pseudoscience.
You could call it a formula. You could call it
a model isn't a
system.
formula. It's a formula.
Perhaps you could call it a system.
Well, it's only if it purports to be a scientific representation of something, can a model be called pseudoscience, right?
Exactly.
No, a model is pseudoscience.
Yeah, but not all pseudoscience is a model.
Yeah.
So it's more specific than that.
Yeah, but I think he's saying when referring specifically to a model, rather than saying when we use your model, because the audience will hear model thinking, well, we're talking about Earth now, and we're not. Whereas if you say, when we look at your pseudoscience model.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that.
Maybe we could just combine it and say, when we look at your pseudoscientific model, just to be extra clear, right? I mean, I just think I don't know. I mean, you don't want to overly conflate terms.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, these
but
guys...
I agree with the spirit of what John is saying.
Yeah, they disingenuously assert that they have science behind them, and they do not, in any way, shape or form, have science behind them.
And they also disingenuously claim that they've got predictive capabilities to the model.
Yeah, but come on, to be honest, we are talking about people here that believe that math proves reality. So
yeah, but they also believe they've got predictive capabilities, and that nonsense will be quashed after Rumpus fails to make it.
You have to actually back that up with some evidence that you do have it.
To begin with, a scientific hypothesis is a special kind of prediction that forecasts how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. So if somebody's going to make a prediction, they have to give a scientific hypothesis. Do you follow that?
Yeah, otherwise it's just Mystic Meg.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. That's true.
Testing a theoretical model.
It's akin to the guys who go to the horse racing and create a model of who will win, right? Well, that model is the same quality as a globe model. It's pseudoscience nonsense.
Absolutely agreed. But yeah, we have to, like, a model is basically a set of systems, usually based on math and certain elements of, could be of all kinds of things, depending on what the model is about.
That's not the definition of it.
It does not, a model by definition does not prove reality. Just as math does not prove reality. It's just a combined system. A combined system that proposes a setup.
Define model in science, please.
Science? I don't know. Yeah. Not talking about that. I'm just talking about model outside of science.
Like a runway model?
To represent
specific.
A system, a set of structures.
A model is just any kind of representation of some some purported reality.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Could
idea.
be.
No, in science, it has a specific definition. Words are precisely defined in science. A model is used for situations when it is known that the hypothesis has a limitation on its validity. That means there never was a scientific hypothesis to begin with. This is pseudoscience.
I don't know. Model is also a very beautiful person. That's being.
That's
professionally
equivocating.
beautiful.
That's equivocating. That's an equivocation fallacy.
You're so serious.
Using a term with different a term with two different meanings in the same discussion. That's a textbook definition of equivocation fallacy.
Can
Like
I just address
computer
Lono's
science?
comments?
Computer science, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, computer science. That's preposterous.
Can I just comment on Lono's comment? He said, Lono says, where's it gone? He says, Riley knows it will match, so he's not allowing him to make a prediction. Shut up. Not allowing him to make a prediction. I wanted to make a prediction to test to see whether it matches, Lono. Have you been asleep for the last 3 days?
These people can't keep up. And they think that if he does make a prediction, and it's correct, that somehow means he'll have won the argument. It's like, no, that's what we're trying to point out here. It makes no difference, win, lose, or draw. Whether or not he gets it right is irrelevant because it doesn't prove reality.
But a model can also be a shape, basically, like a 3D model or a computer model.
Yeah, you could also have like a statistical model and that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're not specifically using the word model in a scientific way, like emphasizing science at all. We're just basically emphasizing shapes and systems.
Yeah, but I mean, or you could have a statistical model that could have some scientific validity in some known, in some well understood domain of phenomena or something like that. I mean, it's a pretty broad term. I don't think that there's a lot of
very broad term used in many different fields. But
even
I agree that we should definitely emphasize that it is that once you embrace a model of the Earth, that it is pseudoscience. I agree to that. But yeah.
But if the definition is something that has a limitation on its hypothesis, then that excludes it immediately from being scientific.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So it's not scientific at all. Models aren't science. That's full stop. End of statement.
Yeah,
what
even
is
if
science?
you could have a model that proves that the world is like a cube or something.
Yeah, well,
Cube interconnected, and he could make that visually work. That doesn't mean that it's automatically proof that the Earth is shaped that way. Just if he can get the thing to work, and he doesn't, of course, not as a globe anyway. But even if he could get a model together that could work under any circumstances and just show exactly what you would see, then still that is not scientific proof that the Earth is shaped that way.
a hypothesis that took the form of like a probability distribution model of some kind of phenomenon like light or something like that, or like the way that or like say like kinetic molecular theory is based on probability distribution models. So within the like entire scientific vocabulary that a possible uses within a sort of valid scientific context, I think that model there's still a lot of room for the word model to have some valid use.
Models are used in engineering to predict the outcome, like say, for example, in aerodynamics, like what type of shape.
You're on fire today, Arwin. I was just about to say the same thing.
How the air would then redistribute itself, and then you test it and see if the predictive model is correct.
But what's another word? What's another word for engineering, though, Arwin? What's another word?
That's not science.
What's another word for engineering? It's technology, right?
Yes,
right.
It's engineering.
Yeah, but it's not science.
But no, I mean, even things like quantum physics relies on models of probability distribution.
No, they don't.
Yeah, but
That's
then you get into pure theoretics.
That's not a model.
So any kind of description of a probability distribution could be described as a model.
That's not a model. That's just the way it functions.
I think
that's not a model.
John,
but you're not the wave
narrowing down the word model a bit.
No,
too
I'm not.
much.
I'm not.
I think.
All right, whatever.
No, I'm not. Well, let's pull up
One's
what
always
is
right.
science? The
So-
scientific method, right? Science is the scientific method. Pull up a scientific method with model in it. Let me see it. Go ahead.
That is in the context of science. There's other
There
ways to
is no
use the word.
context in science. Science is its method, the scientific method, right? If it's not in there, it's not science. Period. End of story.
Yeah, but we weren't talking about science.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about a study of the natural world. Where we live is science. That's what we're using. That's the best possible yardstick. Not only that, it's the yardstick that they use and claim they have behind them and don't. So science is absolutely what we should use here.
I disagree, to be honest, but I agree in the sense that if they claim to have proof that the Earth is a globe, then you should definitely do that. But doesn't mean that we can't just speculate here
That's right.
to figure out how what
speculation.
we're seeing. You have to have some maneuvering room.
You
If
got the right
have to
word.
start out proving everything perfectly through the scientific method right away.
That's
then
right.
where are you going to be? You're going to
That's
get
right.
nowhere.
Well, it's not science then.
No, it isn't.
So there you go. That's my
Yeah,
point.
it's
Thank
fine.
you.
I have no problem with not being scientific in that sense.
So
me
anyway, let's
neither.
get back to the main point. Rumpus has failed to make a prediction and therefore will be cited in future as the guy that could have made a prediction to validate the claim by the ballers that they have a predictive model, but messed it up.
Yeah,
Rumpus
because
is
we were
failing.
not worthy.
Yeah, because we're not worthy. Yeah. No, Nathan's not worthy, he said. He didn't say us, he said Nathan.
Well, I'm going to do a bit of filming tonight. So what do you think I'm going to see?
Flat Earth.
Visibility says 16 miles, I believe, or 16 kilometers.
I don't think you'll see much at all.
Well,
Totally naffy. I
I'll
don't
try
think
and
you'll see
prove that
anything.
wrong.
It's pretty awful conditions. Can't be clear where you are. No way.
I'm going to go for the sunset, see what we can see.
Now, I'm looking forward to it clearing up as well. There's a few things I want to capture. Not in any particular glory. I don't have a fantastic camera like you guys. P900, sponsor of the Flat Earth. But yeah, with my iPhone, there's a few bits and bobs that I want to catch.
I can't wait until they standardize the P900 for in mobile phones. Wouldn't that be awesome?
That's never going to happen.
Nah, of course it's not, but who knows? Maybe.
What about the P950? Is that out yet? The new one with the even higher optical zoom?
Got to mention at the conference, so, you know, it makes sense. I mean, the P900 is, I joke and say it's the sponsor of the Flat Earth, but, you know, it is kind of a big part of this. And Anthony was talking to the guys at the conference about that exact thing, saying, you know, well, there's a good chance they'll drop in price as a consequence of the new one coming out, but it's only about, is it 30% more zoom? Which, if I'm honest, if I had a P900, which I don't, I wouldn't be inclined to upgrade for that.
Me neither.
I would.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that it would be, I'm sure some flat earthers are going to end up with some P950s, and it'll be interesting to see how those are different in practice, right? If there might be some really interesting results that are possible with 30%. I mean, 30% is quite a bit actually on a camera.
It's significant. It's just not enough for me to spend however 600 quid or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but or it's also like, yeah, maybe the P900s will become more affordable in light of the.
Unless they give me like a scrappage allowance towards it by giving me back my purchase price of my P900, which I doubt they'll do. But I'm not.
But weren't they saying there was going to be some other improvements besides the optical zoom?
Nah, it's the same. I believe it's the same camera body. It's just the way they got the lenses set up inside.
It'd be nice if they improved the sensor and did some other.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there was a sensor increase the size, then that would be better. But that tiny sensor makes me think.
Yeah.
But it's a compact camera. I mean, considering what it is, it's number one. It's cheap. I'm not gonna. I know people out there are gonna hate me saying this, but I've handled the P900. It's not a top quality, really well screwed together camera. It's just okay. You know, it's not like the DSLRs from Nikon. It's just not the same thing. It's classed as a compact camera. It's anything but compact, but that's what it's classed as. So yeah, it's got a tiny little sensor on it. But the zoom on it and the stabilization is just absolutely out of this world.
Yeah. And the other thing that's great about it is because it is no detachable lenses or whatever, you don't have to take your lens off and clean it all the time. I mean, it's just literally the lens is there, put your lens cap on, and that's it. You don't have to worry about it. It's low maintenance.
What are the sensor? What are the specs on the sensor in the P900? Because I'm just looking at the P950.
Just do P900. Just type in Google P900 versus D500, for example, and then you'll see the sensor size. There's like a comparison website that compares them. Scroll down the list, and you'll see in the link, it shows you the sensor sizes, and it's probably one of the smallest sensor sizes on the market. It's tiny. P900 versus D500, and the comparison website is the one. It's the top one, cameradecision.com. It gives you a nice big specifications comparison, and it tells you like its height, its width, its weight, the sensor that's in it, values out of 100 for everything.
What would you say is the best drone to actually buy?
Don't know. There's loads of them on the market now.
To get one.
Yeah, but most have fisheye lenses.
Yeah.
Standard, because those cameras are very cheap.
Take a helicopter.
Guess why? Why they are the cheapest ones?
Helicopter and a P900.
That would be good. I just don't have one on my.
Oh, that would be amazing. But there are a little bit more expensive drones that have basically interchangeable parts in which you can definitely install P900s. There's no doubt about that, but they will be a lot more expensive than the.
Oh, Sean Hufford reckons
drone.
drones do not have a fisheye lens. Yeah, of course they do. You might get the odd one or two that don't, but you need to have a fisheye lens on it so that you get a better visibility of what you're looking at.
Why?
Especially when you're in small areas.
I don't get it. Why? Why would you need that?
So that you can see better imagery. The idea of a fisheye lens is that it gives you more wider angle to see.
Well, yeah, you've got to be a bit more clear. They may not have fisheye lenses. I'm sure the majority haven't got fisheye lenses, but have got wide angle lenses.
Yeah, they're almost the same. They're almost indistinguishable. They're almost the same. But the point is they don't have a flat lens. Most of them don't have flat lenses because of the narrow field of view.
It looks like they haven't even announced the specs on the P950 yet.
It was they set it up as a patent. I read an article saying that the patent was set up and done, and I think it was summer last year, so it's not that far away. But apparently, the factory in China where they were all being made, or Malaysia, or wherever it was, the factory shut down for whatever reason. I don't know whether I don't know, but it's been delayed, or they may not even. I don't know. Who knows? I thought it'd have been out easily by now, though.
Yeah, you'd think. I thought because I read something like I think last summer, like it was just some camera consumer article talking about that they were anticipating it, but yeah, now just checking up on it again, it seems like nothing's developed.
Well, I just hope that the newer versions will actually be better and not be engineered specifically to not make this work anymore, because we don't really know their priorities. It's still a big company, one of the mega corporations. So I hope
maybe the Freemasons have gone and shut down the factory.
Well, they could have gotten criticism like, hey, you're giving the opponents too many options.
No way. They do not care.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm just joking around.
Well, we'll find out one way or the other. So
it doesn't matter. I mean, people. I don't think it's going to affect the trajectory of, like, it's not. This isn't going to be made or broken by a new lens on a Nikon camera, right?
I agree. All they care about is selling more cameras.
That's already enough.
They just want to sell more cameras. That's their only interest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the majority of people are just going to believe whatever they're told, no matter what, really.
Ooh, there is Kodak have brought out. The P900 is an 83 times zoom. It's an equivalent to a 2000 millimeter. Well, Kodak have brought out one that's a 90 times zoom. It's called the Pix Pro AZ901. not quite as cool as sounded as a P900, but it's called the Pix Pro AZ901. Just looking on there.
901A, not a coincidence with the number of model 901.
901, yeah, it's a little bit better.
I'm waiting for the T1000 to come out.
Yeah. Dave Murphy made that joke at the convention.
Did he? Right,
he did.
Okay.
Well, it has a better sensor than the P900. It has a 20 megapixel sensor.
Hello, Chocolate. How you
Hey,
doing?
Chocolate saying.
Hello.
Hello.
What's that, Arwen?
What's
No,
up, guys?
just saying hello.
Oh.
It would have helped if you'd have told us you were doing it, Nathan.
What's up, guys?
What's up? Refraction's up.
Yeah, what's his name? Dave Murphy said that the new camera would be made of liquid metal.
That would be cool.
T1000.
Not very handy, but
The funny thing is, a lot of these TV programs and films that they did in the 1980s, 1990s, I think it was all predictive programming for what would happen in the future, because they're talking now about robots and machines taking over the factories and manual work and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And perhaps in 15, 20 years' time, probably about a third of the workforce will be robots.
Well, they've been talking about that in TV and movies since the 50s, right? I mean, the original Westworld movie came out in 1972, I think. So they've been building this stuff up for decades.
just look at auto factories, like car factories. They are already very much mechanized for a very long time. They've basically been completely redesigned using a lot of robotics. So yeah, that type of development will just continue on, and they're already trying out this crazy new thing where they basically replacing service workers with robots, which I think is a very bad idea because it depersonalizes everything. And yeah,
well, some of it is also like ways that they represent what's really going on, right? Like the idea of the skin job or the artificial life, the artificial android being is actually just the human who's been reskinned for the purpose of existing as a media avatar. So
who knows what they're going to use it for.
There's a lot of layers of sort of like esoterica that can be, it's a very complex interpretation of the predictive programming stuff, but certainly it's definitely all like the entire media is nothing but predictive programming.
Well, anyway, who knows where they're going to lead us with the robotics. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to if NASA is going to put out a new story that they're going to use a purely robotically manned spacecraft to go to some strange place, and then you don't have to deal with any people. You just have robots, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, even Donald Trump might be a robot.
Well, not too sure about that one. Who knows? But I'm really I saw a speech today of him like giving to a big crowd. I think it was in Washington. It was really annoying because he was harping on about NASA. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna make NASA great again, and it was kind of funny because he did emphasize, we're gonna actually ask them rent for their projects. So he was kind of pushing on the thing that they are very costly and that they actually need to produce something for the cost that they have. I thought that part was funny, but he did go on about going to Mars and all that.
That's interesting because I read some article that they've actually now they've rescinded and canceled the new proposed moon mission that they were determined that they were going to do. Like Trump
they're never going to do that. That's ridiculous. Like everybody's going to be during that so-called project. Everybody's going to be having their cameras launched, aimed at the moon, filming it real time, and then basically seeing that nothing's really there. So they can never do that. It's too close. The technology has made it impossible for them to do that in a way that that they can fool the public with, because we're now going to just film them like, oh, where are they? Where have they landed? Why don't I see anything with my super zoom lens and everything? So that's
Get
never
red
going to work.
rhetoric
But
on the
Mars
case.
is still just a point of light. So
You can get
can
red
still
rhetoric on the case. You'll
somewhat
get it.
predict it.
You'll get it in full HD from a P900.
yeah, exactly. So and everybody could do that. Like if you have thousands of people doing that all at the same time from different positions on the Earth, and they're gonna launch it so-called to the moon, then everybody's gonna figure out, okay, that's complete nonsense.
Yeah.
So, but
Do you not
Mars
think
is
that-
still far away enough. It's that you can barely see it, so they can still suggest that they're doing it there.
Yeah, the
They'll
bullshit
just
level
say
is
they're
high
on
with
the
Mars. You're
backside of
right.
the moon.
Sorry?
They'll just say they're on the backside of the moon or something.
Nah, maybe. Nah,
They'll
I
create
doubt
some
it.
nonsense.
People, it doesn't matter what they could show anything, and 99% of people will just believe anything.
Because
Doesn't
people
matter.
still believe there's a car in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're like, it's like Howard. It's just so ridiculous when you look at what they're, the claims of contemporary astronomers, like that they can see Earth-like planets light
Hello,
years
how you
away.
doing? Who's that?
It's
Ellen.
complete,
And,
and
Hi,
people
Brenda.
just uncritically
yeah,
accept.
she's gone.
I'm sorry.
She's not coming back in either. She
Yeah.
sniped 3 people for no reason the other day.
No, I
Who?
didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Nope. I didn't do that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you did. We were here. We saw you do it.
Well, if you've sniped me for reasons too.
Did you just lie? Did you just say you didn't do it and now
So
you,
people have
you did.
sniped.
you've been caught out?
No, you lied, Brenda. You're a liar.
What difference does it make?
Oh, nice.
Because we've been
nice.
finding
You're a
lots of you
liar.
guys lie. Lots of you ballers lie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you
overtly
sniped
lie.
me for no reason.
Darwin and
Why
It's
can't
nice
I?
quoting
what you do.
Hillary Clinton then there.
That's what you do.
What difference
I
does
was just thinking the same thing, Alvin.
I really think you should boot Brenda, because Brenda's a troll, a liar,
No,
and
I'm not a troll.
you're an absolute troll.
I could easily defeat all of your arguments. Every single one of them.
Yeah, right,
That's
okay.
why every single time.
No, that's
Wow.
why you're a troll.
People are
You
complete
say that.
morons.
Just the other
Can't
day.
even figure out that gravity exists. You can't
I-
figure that out.
What a clown.
So
I'm
you
not
brought some
engaging.
proof of
Brenda's out
gravity.
for another lashing.
You brought some proof with you.
Well, your
Let's give a
ability
shout out
to block and,
what's his
and
name,
snipe
Clive
me
Adams.
and
I
all
haven't
that
seen him
doesn't
for
prove your
absolutely ages.
case.
He's been on the
It
last
doesn't
couple of
prove
days.
anything.
But I've
Am I
not seen him
allowed
for
to kick
months.
Brenda?
Pardon?
Am I allowed to kick Brenda?
Brenda, yeah, because Brenda's not worthy. She definitely isn't worthy.
How do I do that?
Why don't you?
I'll show you.
Can I kick her? How'd you do
Why
it?
don't you defeat me in rational argument?
Like when you see
Maybe
Brenda,
do that.
When I
Just
defeat
think
the
it's your
rational
call.
argument,
Hold
then I'll
on.
tell you
Just
about
because Brenda's
Defeat-
come in doesn't mean we all have to descend into talking over each other.
do you remember when on that scene
Defeat
out of
me
Airplane
in
where that
rational
hysterical
debate.
female passenger started
Do
going a
that.
bit crazy in the
No
plane?
practice in rational.
I dare you. I dare you.
I'm just trying to figure out how to kick you, and then I'm going to do that.
If you kick me, you're a
I'll
coward.
show you how to do it. It's
Oh,
not,
I'm a coward, right?
Yeah, and it's
not that easy. It's not easy done, but
admission
once
that
you know
you
how to
don't
do it, it's
have
easy.
arguments to support your beliefs.
Okay, well, what's your new argument that you've got to support your globe belief then, Brenda? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
What?
Finally, some ball
what
earth proofs.
Brenda's not in, is she?
Oh, we'll just go back to the classic one. The Greeks showed that the Earth is curved. It's
Brenda's not in the
not
chat,
flat.
is she?
Yeah, but
It
what can
can
you
be
show? What can you show?
Yeah,
Never mind the Greeks. What
that
can
the-
you
Hold on,
show us?
That's the
Ranty.
Greek
Hold on. I
experiment.
didn't get to hear what she had to present then. Can you just let her
Right.
actually say it?
Right. So the Greeks showed that the Earth must be flat, must be round.
Oh,
Ooh, Freudian slip there. You almost spoke the truth.
And how did they do that, Brenda?
By taking measurements and doing experiments.
Oh, she said experiment. Can I share my screen?
She's gone.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, John.
Booted. Wasn't me though, but
I didn't do this.
I would have done it if I knew how.
Oh, she's gone?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, I thought she was
Oh.
already gone. Am I still even in the hangout here? What's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
go.
are.
Hangout.
I thought she was gone ages ago.
I didn't.
she was under
I was
another
out of the
name.
back chat for a while, but she was still in here for some reason.
All right, Nathan, you can take me off since
Okay.
she's left.
No worries.
Well,
So
speaking about how gullible
icons.
people are, does anyone remember or has heard of the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast?
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And essentially, that's what people believed it was real because they heard it over the radio.
Yep.
Right? And people are the same now as they are back then, so gullible. And they will believe if something came on the telly that there was going to be a world war, literally, if there was a fake news broadcast that there was going to be a world war, everyone would start rioting or something stupid.
Yep.
Wasn't there a football match that went on? So at the beginning of the broadcast, it said something along the lines of "This is fictitious and is a story." You know, it gave its disclaimers and then went into the story. But because there was a football match running, people just flicked the channel halfway through, and suddenly they're into this disaster broadcast as they would see it.
Wait, we're talking about War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was very special.
But what's funny is that I read some article, and I may be able to find it and share it later in the Skype or whatever, but that in fact the idea that everybody panicked and tried to leave New York City in a sort of traffic jam quasi riot was actually also a hoax. That never happened.
I think that War of the Worlds was actually a radio broadcast.
Yeah, it was a radio broadcast.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but because that would, it's a lot easier to fake that, of course.
Yeah, but what they took from that slip up as such was that people can be fooled very easily. And if you look at the moon landing live feed, for instance, I mean, why they had this, the news reporters couldn't film the live feed. They had to watch it on a projection.
Yeah, no, it was worse than that. It was a third-hand projection that they took off the screen at the headquarters, so it was very tightly controlled what the media could actually see, but they were literally filming with their cameras a projection screen, and the projection image was of a television screen, so it's coming down to a CRT monitor which is being filmed, then being projected, then being filmed by the the broadcasters.
Yeah.
So it gets worse. This is actually another Math Powerland point. So he was saying that many people back in the 70s believed the moon landing because they heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
Sheep. That's all they are. They're just gullible sheep. Brenda's a typical gullible sheep. She'll believe anything. If Mick West came in...
I think Brenda knows the Earth is flat, actually. I think Brenda's a troll. I had an interesting discussion the other day on Issa's Flat Earth Court with Brenda, and that's why I no longer tolerate Brenda, because even when Brenda is definitively shown to be completely wrong, Brenda won't admit it. Brenda has no
sincere bone in her body.
Not a sincere bone in her body, and I think she's
not shy of lying anyway.
Yeah, I think Issa's video is still up. So if anybody wants proof, go check out. I think the last Flat Earth Court video, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying.
And she starts her arguments with "you guys are morons" anyway.
Yeah,
so,
and let's not forget what she did. I can't remember whose it was, but she deleted something like 600 files that were nothing to do with her because, well, reasons, and they were all to do with somebody's flat Earth research. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah,
or
Crow
what it was.
777, CRROW777, and somebody had got a compilation of files from him, about 160 files on a Google Drive, and she just went in and deleted them all.
Yeah. So you know what? This kind of behavior I don't think we should tolerate.
Yeah, I agree. That's why she doesn't come on.
This is not a person who's interested in engaging in a rational debate, as she was proclaiming, but this is someone who's just trying to jam the argument up and troll and be a nuisance. So
a regular obfuscator.
Yeah, I mean things like deleting files, sniping people. It's just like, what is that? Why should we tolerate someone like that?
That's shady.
Yeah, it's just pathetic. I mean, why should we have to deal with pathetic lowlifes? Like if people want to come in here and and honestly believe that the Earth is the globe, and we'll have it out, we'll debate, and we're willing to do that on respectful terms. And so if someone's not willing to have a basic decency, why should we tolerate them?
An excellent point. And with that, I'm going to give a quick plug as we have about an hour left on this live stream. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. Please share the show. Massive thanks to those of you who've done so already. Sharing the show obviously increases the chances of a more diverse panel by increasing the live audience, so please share. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is about an hour left on this live stream. Hi Tim, good to have you.
Howdy, I just was joining just to let you guys know that Brenda is a dude. Just letting you guys know that.
That's
yeah.
Thanks for letting us know.
We suspected that.
Well, whatever it is, it's a troll. And
I'll go with the she. But it doesn't really matter.
The term's transgender.
Yeah, come on. Like, what does that got to do with anything? You know.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think flat earthers fall for the whole narrative, the whole liberal progressive narratives. I thought.
Well,
so,
we're all individuals. So
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there's a more progressive element in the flat Earth, just like in the globe Earth, right? I mean, we're talking about the Earth, not about political points of view or
yeah. I'm all about character. I don't really care about what your sexual orientation is or anything. I personally know in real life transgender people that are my best friends.
However, so flat earthers never talk about politics. They never talk about Trump. They never talk about 9/11. They never talk about anything at all that has to do with politics.
I do.
I can talk about all of that.
But everybody's an individual. Some people do talk about that kind of stuff. Others,
oh, look at
they
Stephen Chess. Hey, Stephen Chess.
He's on mute.
Oh, that's too bad. I wanted to hear from Stephen Chess.
Who is this person?
That's Tim.
God, what, Tim? Why are you acting like a douche?
Because
I'm in a room full of douches, dude. Come on, man.
So you got anything constructive to bring here?
I expect more from you, Tim. Honestly, I think you're smarter than that. You don't need to lower yourself to that kind of.
I just want to congratulate you, Tim, though, by the way, because I've been looking for flat Earth proof for the last year with my P900.
I got the best.
You trumped that. You got some fantastic flat Earth proof with that drone footage. Jeez, honest to God, I've been blown away with it.
Ain't no bump in Tim's footage.
Yep.
Thank you for that, man. Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, guys, because I want to get trolled by a bunch of clowns.
So, FE now.
I'm giving you sincere thanks for your contribution to our research.
No, you're trolling.
No, I'm being absolutely sincere. I meant kudos.
I
mean it. I mean it. Kudos. That was, even if you take out the globe Earth and flat Earth argument, that was spectacular footage regardless. Yeah, it proves flat Earth.
I'm actually about to go here in a minute. I just woke up a bit late, but
yeah,
the thing about that is I did want to say I just woke up, so I have a deeper voice when I wake up. I sound like a burly man.
Yeah, still got girly ankles though, eh, Tim?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I can't actually see my penis, and I have abs, unlike you.
Yeah, you walked into
anyway,
that one,
guys. So I did come on and say specifically about the land that you can see that you couldn't see from the ground, and you guys have been kind of conflating and lying to your audience and saying about the whole reflection thing. So it's really silly the past couple days,
what
guys.
What have we been lying about?
It was Nathan. Nathan actually is conflating the situation, and Anthony Riley. So
really, you asked us what explains it, and I said perspective.
A conflation, you need to be conflating more than one thing. So what's the conflation?
I came on and said that I just wanted to see the flat Earth perspective of how water's flat, but for some reason, when you're looking over water, you can start to see mountains that you couldn't see when you start to rise up. And you guys completely didn't even address that at all.
Yes, I did.
Riley wanted to say, "Oh, you live on a slant Earth, okay, Arwen? You're the high elf here, okay? I understand."
Oh yeah,
that's all right. That's fair enough, Tim.
But anyway,
I have no problem with being called that. But
hold on, Arwen. Who would you like to address it?
Would I like to address it?
Who would you like address your phrase it as a question, if you will? We've heard it once before, but who would you like to address it?
Actually, let me just get on my computer, and we'll watch it again if you guys want to.
But we've already heard it. You've said that there's stuff on the horizon. I mean, I'll address it if you like. So, in order for there to be a sphere Earth in play, you have to have a hump between you and that horizon. And the reflection proves unequivocally that there's no hump.
It's the reflections, man. The reflections kill it.
So yeah, that's why I was asking you about how far between us and the mountains and how far left to right, because you need to establish curve in both axes, right? If you're on a sphere, the curve goes away from you in all directions. Therefore, you need both. Not just things in the distance that is accounted for with perspective, something we also said when this first came up. So we've not conflated anything, we've not lied. We accounted for why things in the distance get smaller. That would be perspective. But we also debunked that this is in any way a spherical observation on account of the fact that you don't have a hump between you and the horizon, right? 8 inches off the ground, remember?
How is there not a hump when it's actually blocking
because you have a reflection
that are hundreds of feet
got a
high
reflection
in the background?
The reflection.
No, I don't want to talk about the reflection because
that's the thing that debunks the hump. That's the thing that debunks it, though. That wouldn't be possible if there was a hump there.
No, it doesn't. You can't prove.
Yeah,
you can't prove that a sphere with 25,000 miles in circumference wouldn't have reflections like in my video. You can't prove
well,
that.
You
just
find
say
me
it.
any curved piece of glass that's got a mirrored surface that does not distort what you see in that reflection, and we'll go from there.
No, you actually are the one making the assertion
you're making
that
an argument that can't be proved by
miles.
you. You're saying if you can't disprove that if I go to space and have a look at it, right, on a sphere Earth. So what you're doing is removing me from the ground and telling me that I've got to go to space to double check whether or not a sphere Earth will do this, right?
I didn't even hear the question. You're expecting to see curvature on the x-axis, which is total noob flat Earth 101 clown stuff. So
no,
how far do you think
if that was the case, Tim,
is?
why is it accounted for in the advanced tab of the Metabunk calculation then?
I don't know.
I don't know. You don't really know. Really, go and have a little look at that advanced tab, Tim. Just so you understand what the rest of the Muppet idiots who believe they live on a sphere think, rather than asserting that they don't think that you should see it on the x-axis.
Listen to me real quick.
Because, Tim, let's get something absolutely clear. Let's get it clear. If you live on a sphere, you need to be able to actually see some curvature, mate. Now, you can just assert doggedly that you don't need to see x-axis curvature. You do, if you live on a sphere, mate.
Is total disinfo. Freaking 9/11 was not an inside job.
Sorry, you're just rambling nonsense now about 9/11. So I'll assert it again. If you live on a sphere, it's very simple. You need to see curvature. And you saying you won't see x-axis curvature basically just supports our argument, Tim. Yeah, you don't see it because it isn't there because we don't live on a sphere.
It isn't there.
Yeah, it isn't.
There.
Okay,
because you shouldn't see it there.
Yeah, now you're just playing silly buggers.
Make fun of someone's
this
accent,
is the strength of your argument, Tim.
No, he sounds like a posh little clown.
Well, this is the strength of your argument to ad hom me. Yeah, you want to ad hom me rather than come up with a better argument, because so far all you've done is point out that we don't have x-axis curvature. Even though your Muppet believers that think they live on a sphere account for it in their crappy calculations. Nothing. Silence.
I think it's very ironic that Tim is calling us a
clown. Do you want to correct your position, Tim?
Icon.
Sorry, let's just get a concession. Do you want to correct your position that the rest of the Muppet believers who think they live on a sphere don't think you should see x-axis curvature? Do you want to correct that position or not?
How much x-axis curvature should I see over 60
You tell me, Muppet. You're the one who believes that you live on a sphere. Don't ask me how
many miles?
How much fantasy curve there should be there. You're the guys accounting for curve that ain't there. You've just told my audience there is no x-axis curve. So yeah, You're supporting our
No, I
argument.
didn't say that there's no x-axis curve.
You said it was a disingenuous argument, that it was disinfo, that I was a clown, right? So that would beg me to believe that you are asserting that there shouldn't be any. So you're saying there should be?
So
hold on. Are you saying there should be
an
x-axis curve or shouldn't be, Tim? Which is it?
No.
Should or shouldn't be? Which should it be? In your model, in your fantasy world of globe belief.
I can respond. Okay, great. So anyway, the whole thing was about my video. Okay.
Yeah. Should there be x-axis curve
also,
or not?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm asking a direct question. What's your position? Should we or should we not see curve on the x-axis?
First off, it matters how high you are, right?
It's a simple question. Ever should we see it?
Ever? Well, yeah, if you're really high, you'll see it. So yeah, ever. We can.
How high?
Right, so we do have x-axis curve.
The Earth is a sphere, observably and demonstrably a sphere.
So why would it be disingenuous of me to assert that you need x-axis curvature then, which is what you've done?
How is it demonstrably a sphere? What's the demonstration?
Well, let's see. There's axial rotation with the two celestial points. Equinoxes actually prove that the Earth is a sphere. Anything about the sun and the moon prove the Earth is a sphere. Solar eclipses, lunar eclipses prove that the Earth is a sphere. It's wrong? How does that work on a flat Earth then?
Hey, Nathan, we're back to the two celestial points. Let's go. Share my screen, please.
No worries. You're up.
We're back air. We got the natural phenomena observed, two celestial points. Alternative hypothesis, please.
So are all observations under the scrutiny of the scientific method?
Is this science?
If you claim to have proof of a sphere Earth, then yes.
Did I say it was proof?
Yeah,
it was demonstrable. You said it was demonstrable.
Yeah.
Not observable.
It's observably demonstrable. Yeah, you can go do it yourself.
Demonstrable implies
according to latitude.
No, demonstrable implies that you could test the idea.
That's right.
You can test the idea.
Okay,
let's go. Different latitudes every single day.
Two
every single night.
Points. Let's go. We're on alternative
capable
hypothesis.
of being demonstrated or proven. So that's what the scientific method's all about, mate.
Yeah, it's about demonstrating, testing.
Did I ever say that I was going to construct the scientific method for quantum eraser?
You used the word demonstrable.
I never said proof. I said
you
evidence.
said demonstrable.
Oh, goodness. Okay. You can stop sharing. He's not going to give it to us.
Well, no, you used the word demonstrable. It's just said, did I ever say it was scientific? Right, demonstrable. Look it up.
Yeah.
I think Tim is just clowning around.
Demonstratable.
Yeah, what do you mean by demonstratable?
Well, you can demonstrate to somebody that there are two celestial points. They can look north in the northern hemisphere, see that there's Polaris.
Yeah, but no, you said that
higher.
But you said it was demonstrable that the Earth was a globe, not that there's two celestial points. So how
you can demonstrate that the Earth is a globe to somebody that is not afflicted by either a religious belief like quantum eraser, or just being clowns like the rest of the panel.
Take me through it.
I think you're reversing it around. Because all you can demonstrate is that the globe of the heavens is a globe.
You live on a slant Earth. You're not even a flat Earther, dude. You live on a freaking slant.
No, the slant is optical.
The slant is optical.
Hold on.
Funny, isn't it?
Oh, what a clown.
Tim, you're here with people who are open to listen to how two celestial points of rotation proves we're on a sphere. So you take us through it. How does it prove that?
I never said it proves, first of all.
Okay. How does it in any way suggest?
I think Tim is here to just bring his religious testification.
Oh, yes, the religious slant Earth of optics. Sunday. Hey, look, it's optics, guys. That's how it works. Optics. That's all I just say is optics.
Yeah, refraction.
Optics in
bending
refraction
light
in
upward,
optics.
causing an
slant
apparent
Earth.
slant. Apparent, not physical. Apparent.
Oh, apparent. Oh, okay.
Yes, apparent. It's visual.
It's like the apparent horizon.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
His butt hurt about the chat a few days ago, and now he's coming in to troll, right?
No, I am just trolling. So you know what? I'm going to let you guys get back to your stuff.
Bring us a religious testimony.
Behaving like a much lesser version of himself. then he could. You know, he's being a low life because he's butthurt. It's pretty clear.
Oh, I'm super butthurt, guys. There's people on the internet that think the Earth is flat.
All right, go in
It's
peace.
really sad. It's
Have faith in
2018.
It's all good.
You gave us some beautiful evidence, you know, and you just came in here, declared victory, and then we're shown how.
I never declared victory. That's another conflation. I just came on and asked how, in a flat Earth perspective, how you can see more land as you go up. That's all I said. That's all I said.
And I explained it to you.
Perspective.
So thank you so much.
Full perspective.
You're welcome. Now it's a combination. It's both perspective and.
You always act like.
And he's gone.
Oh.
Go in peace.
Does he always act like a douche like that? Like,
may the radius.
Nah, he was just here to bring his testimony. I see it every Sunday in church as well. People come to the stage just like, yeah, I'm gonna bring my testimony why I believe in
we heard his
in the Bible and all that, and I respect that kind of more than these Globers here. Because
I agree.
The people in church, they don't claim to have scientific proof. They just claim
that's
their
always
belief.
been his position,
I do.
and I've gained a modicum of respect on account of the fact that he does actually do that. Hello, the one true Morty. Is that a real person? Hello. Oh, he's going to kick my whole panel as they all vanish.
I'm here.
I'm still here.
Cool.
I'm still here.
I've been booted.
Oh, Renty's. No, wait, Renty's still there.
All right.
I'm here.
Hey, back to Arwen's point. I claim that I have scientific evidence.
Go ahead.
For the creator. I just did it about a week ago.
Okay.
Right? On the video.
Channel. Yeah.
I think I posted it a number of times on Masturbators also. I guess if you don't look at it, then I guess you're right.
Oh, sorry. There's a lot of things coming along in Masturbators chat, so didn't see it.
Well, I did the presentation right here on Nathan's channel.
All right.
So go back and look at it, and if
but I have no problem. Like, I'm not certain if I would consider it absolute proof, but to me,
well, before you've seen it, you won't consider it absolute proof, right? That's outstanding.
Well, if I haven't seen it, then yeah, it's hard to consider.
Yeah, then you can't say that until you see it, right?
Say what? He didn't say anything.
Until he see. What do you mean I didn't say anything?
I said he didn't say anything.
Oh, yeah. You can't say that there is no absolute proof, and I really don't believe that. Well, go back and watch that video. Go through the 4 points that I had, and you can refute them. No problem. Yeah. Come back.
If we don't agree with you, we're not thinking for ourselves.
Well, it's not agree or disagree subject. It's either a 1 or a 0.
Is that really you?
Yeah. Yep, right. We get it.
It's either black or white, 1 or a 0.
P,
that's what science is. That's the alternative hypothesis and the null hypothesis, right? That's why they do that.
He's a moron. Yeah, we know.
Can I just say, Nummy,
What's
you
that?
realize that Tim was literally trolling you guys then? Literally, he came in and he was just massaging your release. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Okay. What are we going to do? He's here. We got to talk to him, right?
I know. He was just getting his words out.
All right, I've had better massages.
Well, hey, there's a couple pieces of old business I'd like to bring up. Just 2 quick ones. Number 1 is where's Wiggles, and number 2 number 2 is has anyone shown this non-physical container yet? Thank you.
No, that's not been addressed. And
No
Anthony also has similar old business in respect to the molten iron core. That still hasn't been demonstrated.
Yeah, I mean, you know when people say that they've got that there is vacuums around, yeah. So like just Quantum's just said them. Try and reproduce a vacuum without a container.
Try and reproduce a vacuum without reproducing one. In other words, make it natural.
Here we go.
Oh no.
No, here we go.
There's definitely a correlation with Tim being around and a particular type of behavior.
No, that's not causation, though. Let's be honest.
No, that's correlation.
That's correlation, right?
Correlation.
And correlation is what part of the scientific model, if you accept part of that.
Here we go.
Correlation does not equal causation.
No, it doesn't, but it does say it in that thing, though, right? So in this instance, we'll plead an exception and we'll apply it.
Boy.
Mathematically, it's definitely Tim Osman.
Do you think it's even possible for them to do that?
What do you mean?
Do what?
I mean, if Rumpus was here, let's suppose Rumpus was here and we asked him the question, would you be able to reproduce an experiment that displays the same characteristics of having a vacuum next to a non-vacuum without having any kind of cylinder around it or anything like that?
Well, he'll say that air is not atmosphere. Don't you know?
What?
Got that as a quote, haven't you?
That's what he said, right? Air is not atmosphere. The rumpus.
Okay, yeah, and it's backed up by all the other trolls, which surprised me that they'd all take a unified position on this. Same with the declaration that the speed of sound in a vacuum is consistent. And then, you know, laugh and go, well, yeah, consistently 0.
Yeah, by the way, about the natural vacuum thing, I've been thinking about that a little bit. And I think that a near or absolute perfect vacuum is completely impossible.
It's me. Hey, I just wanted to ask Quantum Eraser, is there a varying pressure system on Earth? Do we know that there's a varying pressure system?
Second, the question fallacy, where'd you get gas pressure first?
Well,
no, actually, I was just asking a simple question.
Not a fallacy. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Nummy. You are one of the smarter ones. So yeah, is there a varying pressure system?
I'm intellectually honest with everyone that I interact with.
You are, except the CGI Asprey and some of this other stuff. But no, is there a varying pressure system?
I didn't catch that one. What did Nummy say?
I said he asked a question, and then you said it was a fallacy. But I'm saying a question cannot be a fallacy.
Yeah, it's a begging the question fallacy because he said pressure first, right? Where did he get gas pressure? That's assuming the very thing he's attempting to prove.
No, actually, it was just a question.
No, you're missing it. You're missing it.
No, I'm not.
He said he's
a question can
Nami, hello. He's already assuming a pressure. Where did he get gas pressure without a container first? Begging the question.
So is there a varying pressure system on Earth, Quantum Eraser?
You need to keep it at 100, Quantum Eraser. Come on.
You need to what? What are you giving me advice on, Nummy?
Quantum Eraser. So is there a varying pressure system on Earth?
Tim. Say that again, Nummy.
Is there a varying pressure system on Earth?
Nummy.
You don't want to answer this, do you? You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, you're begging the question.
No, I'm not. I'm just asking a question. Is there a pressure system on Earth?
Asking a question. I'm just saying.
You can beg the question because he's assuming a gas pressure. Duh.
Do we live in a pressured environment or not?
Yeah, where'd you get gas pressure? Without a container.
So, or do we live in a varied pressure system, Quantum Eraser?
Where'd you get gas pressure first?
Do we live in a... I'm just asking a simple question.
I can answer you for a moment in that
I'm asking Quantum Eraser specifically.
You can deal with his questions without claiming fallacies where there aren't.
Nami, I don't need your advice. All right?
Well,
so is there a varying pressure system on Earth, Quantum Eraser?
But you're not one. You're one that's very inclined to give unwanted advice. So if you're going to give it, you got to take it.
Oh, really?
I can answer it for you.
Like for
hey, Quantum Eraser, is there a varying pressure system on Earth?
Yes.
Tim, I don't entertain fools. All right, Nami. Go ahead, give an example.
So there is.
Yes.
There is Quantum Eraser.
Yes, there is.
So in your dome model, how does that work? A varying pressure system.
Well, the same it works in a gas tank.
No, I'm asking Quantum Eraser because he wants to.
If the gas tank is sufficiently full, then the liquid gas will be on the downside, where the downward force is pulling the heavier parts, and the rest will be gas, which will be the upper part. So in accordance to the downward force, also known as gravitational pull-less gravity, the less dense gas will be distributed to the higher parts.
So you're not even a flat
thicker
earther,
parts
bro.
will be distributed lower in
you
the
believe
pressurized
in gravitational
system.
Forces, first of all. And you believe in a slant Earth.
No,
so
downward force. Don't convolute what I say, please.
Oh, a conflute. So anyway, quantum eraser, is there a varying pressure system on Earth?
I just answered it for you.
No, I was asking quantum eraser.
Yeah, he's not willing to answer.
He doesn't want to, does he? Because he's a coward.
No, because he's annoyed by you.
He's a coward.
No,
he knows where I'm going
begging
with
the
this.
question. You're automatically assuming that you're in a container by saying that you have pressure.
No, you guys assume that we're in a container. I don't.
No,
I don't
that's
believe we're in a
what you're
container.
doing by asking that question in that phraseology. You are assuming a container by saying you have pressure. You only have pressure if you have a container. Therefore, you are begging the question.
No, I'm not. You guys
Yes,
do not know fallacies at all. It's sad when I hear you guys try to pin them on people.
Where did you get the pressure from? Where'd you get the pressure from? That was his question to you. Where did you?
So hey,
Tim,
is there a
in your
varying
question,
pressure
you
system
said,
on
"Is
Earth
there a
that we know of?"
gradient to the pressure system?"
He doesn't even know the difference
Where are you
between
getting that
moot
pressure
and
from?
mute.
That's what he asked you. Where'd you get the pressure from?
Quantum Racer, do we live in a varying pressure system?
Where'd you get that pressure from?
I don't need Nathan to try to back you up, and nor do you. You should not be a coward and just answer the freaking question.
You are begging the question. That's why I took my time.
That's not begging the question. It's a question. Do we live in a varying pressure system?
The word pressure.
Stop applying fallacies that you don't understand completely.
The word pressure assumes a container. You are begging the question.
Do we live in a varying pressure system?
So where do you get that pressure from?
But that's not part of his question. He's not begging the question. Come on.
Yeah, he is.
Like, just
it's part of it.
Using the word pressure assumes a container.
Thanks, Nami.
He's
using the
assuming
word
gas
pressure in his question assumes a container.
Yeah, but he's just asking you, do you agree or disagree that there's a varying pressure system? He's not adding all these assumptions that you guys are saying.
He will immediately after that.
So when he gets to that, then identify it.
Nami, stop! Hey, don't raise your voice to me. Who do you think you are, man?
Who do I think I am? I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
you're a good dude, man. I do like you.
Yeah, it's begging the question. Where'd you get
Yeah,
that
begging the question by asking the question.
That's right. Begging the question. Yeah, you can beg the question inside a question. A begging the question fallacy is one of your premises. You're assuming your conclusion. So where'd you get?
How is there a premise and a
That's
conclusion
it.
within my question?
Yes, you said pressure. So where do you get that pressure from, Tim?
So anyway, quantum eraser. You want to answer the question or not?
Well, inside
This
your
is,
question,
I mean, this is
your
showing how
question
big of a
also
coward you are to
contains
the whole audience.
Tim, your
Just to let
question
you know.
also contains an assumption.
I don't need you, Nathan, to talk for quantum eraser. Okay? You get that?
No, I can do what I like.
I'll do what I like. Oh, it's my show.
I don't care what you need. So Chris has decided to remove absolutely everyone from the call. There will be a short interlude. Yeah, thanks, Chris. You'll never get to talk ever on this show. Where we need the dulcet tones of Issa, isn't it? Welcome to the show. You don't know. Right, link is out in Masturbators. Will be in about 10 seconds. Click, click. There we go. Hi, Nami.
Oh, hello.
Not bad.
Yo.
Well over an hour and a half before the show got sniped. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Hey, Arwin.
Hey.
I think you need to turn my mic down a little. I can hear
But I think that I think Tim was basically trying to push on a little bit of a neurotic element from Quantum Eraser, and
well, I think
it's really annoying that he did that. But
well,
I basically wanted to answer the question. It's yes. there is varying pressure because it is such a vast container, whatever the shape may be.
I wanted him to answer it.
Yeah, me too, but he just didn't want to. He's stuck in his scientific method thinking, I think.
Yeah. Well, also, he was misidentifying that as being a fallacy, because a logical fallacy cannot be the product of a simple question like that. I mean, he's not begging the question, because then you're assuming what his assumptions are. So you could catch him in the fallacy later down the track of the argument.
Yeah,
but if
exactly. He was suspecting that.
But when you sort of make an accusation of a fallacy that's false, it just doesn't bode well for your own credibility in argument.
It was presumptuous of him.
Yeah.
Although
I mean,
he was
I agree.
probably
it
right.
is presumptuous
Tim was
of him,
probably
but we all
gonna
knew
do
where
that,
that was
but-
going, right? We all knew exactly where that was going.
Yeah, indeed. So I
Yeah,
did
but
get
at the
it.
same time, it's like you got to still respect logic and, you know, be honest about what the person's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll
Tim
just
is a total clown.
be more successful if you actually argue it honestly rather than take that presumptuous approach.
Welcome back, Anthony and Ranty.
And yeah, I don't like that style of arguing like that.
No, me neither. Tim is really just clowning around. He's just trolling us. I get the feeling he's not even trying anymore to basically argue with the globe. He's just bringing his testimony of his belief, of his scriptures, and trolling us, and that's basically all he's got left to do.
Yeah, but
here.
he would admit to that freely. If you say you're just a troll, he'd go, yep. If you'd say you've just got a belief, he'd say, yep. I mean, that is why I do have a reasonable, and I do mean reasonable, amount of respect for Tim Osman. Because he's never declared that he's got proof. He's never declared it in that way. Now, that's not to say that his belief is totally unfounded and nonsense, because it is. But at least he declares it, unlike most of the Globers.
Yeah, he's learned a little bit of...
Although he did say demonstrable.
Speak, basically.
He did say demonstrable. That's why I picked him up on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back, John.
It's certainly not demonstrable that the Earth is a globe.
No, definitely not.
So what happened?
We got sniped.
Chris sniped. Chris sniped everyone.
Chris is just a little pussy.
How did you know it was Chris? What account did it?
Very quiet, Anthony.
Yeah,
Anthony, are you on the other side of the room?
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the room, yeah.
Oh, right, you were actually genuinely on the other side of the room.
I've been in the loft all afternoon. My back's killing me.
Oh.
Is that a flat earth proof or something?
No, I'm just saying I'm resting on the sofa. Was it not Tim that sniped everybody?
No, Chris made a point of coming in to show that it wasn't Tim.
Oh, right.
Anyway. So,
yeah.
Anthony, if you can bear it with your back, can you summarise the situation with the predictive capabilities of the pseudoscience idol called the Globe?
I certainly can. All right, so a week ago or so, I got the evidence of floaty land from the beach, which followed on from the debates from 77 onwards. People like Mark Taylor, Jem Panda, who was the other one? Mark Taylor, Jem Panda, Slice Barcade, all said, why don't you go down to the beach and get it, Riley? So I did, went down to the beach and got it. And I asked the Rumpus, would he be able to predict what the conditions must have been for that to have been possible on a ball model? Because he needs to account for 700 feet of curvature. And he claimed that he is a man of his word at the beginning of the last hangout. He also claimed that there are conditions that he can predict that might account for seeing all the way down to the beach. And he's got the model to do it. And when challenged to produce the prediction, for some reason he won't do it. And I don't really know any reason why he's done this predictive model thing. And if he was really putting like data in to get information out, then he would be proud as punch to produce this information because he'd be dead pleased of it. But for some reason, he doesn't want to do it. And I suspect it's because he hasn't put any maths in it whatsoever, and he's just drew the ray diagram, the ray lines on, and it's literally a case that he's, well, lying, basically. I'm going to call him a liar. I don't think he's got the maths to support his ray trace lines, because if he did have the maths to support it, he'd be able to show us it, and he'd say, right, I'll pick that line because that best represents what you've told me. And it would have been a 10-second job, and he hasn't done it, won't do it, and basically now Ruhif is telling me that he didn't agree to do that. He didn't agree to make a prediction. He only agreed to make a model. Well, that's not true. I showed the evidence at the beginning of the Hangout that showed that he did agree to make a prediction of the conditions necessary by his model to see the land that we should see that's behind 700 feet of curvature. And he claimed 48 hours, and then he would do it. And he's got like 24 left. So if he hasn't done it by this time tomorrow, the guy's lied.
And he said he's a man of his word. So
yeah, he said he was a man of his word. It was pretty much the opening line of the Hangout yesterday. So if you want to see the citation for that, just watch it as he turns his microphone off yesterday. He said, I didn't think you'd show. And his response was, well, I'm a man of my word. And he's given his word that he'll give us a prediction of the conditions necessary to account for this. And he's now basically trying to tell Ruhif that he didn't agree to do that. He only agreed to provide a model. Well, that's not what he agreed to do. He agreed to make a prediction of the conditions. So let's see him. He had the ray trace diagrams on the screen. It made it sound like he'd done the maths for it. He could have just picked one of the lines, any of the lines, and show us what the conditions were, and he hasn't done it, I don't think. Otherwise, he'd have shown it, and he'd have been dead proud to show it. Must be lying, in my opinion.
Yeah, their model doesn't have predictive capabilities. You know, they can say they've got predictive capabilities with the celestial bodies, and they're on a massive cycle.
Yeah.
But that's not predicting anything.
Well, he claimed 48 hours, and he releases whatever nonsense he's going to come out with. Who cares? At the end of the day, he's got the example, or he's got the opportunity to show us how predictive his model actually is. And I just want to give him enough time to make it show that he can't predict stuff. Because he should be able to do this.
By the way, Rumpus just arrived in chat.
Well, he's got another 24 hours to go. And then it'll go down as the reason. He will go down in the Flat Earth history as, well, we got a predictive model. Well, actually, you haven't, because the Rumpus proved it. So you got 24 hours, Rumpus. TikTok goes the clock.
Yeah, it didn't predict anything thus far.
No, he gave us, was it 8 or 9 degrees? That was as far as he got.
No, that was what he... No. That wasn't part of a prediction. That was the data that he put into the model. He didn't back up the data that he'd put into the model that he was producing with evidence of that data and where he got it from. But that was information that he's got, again, with hindsight. Everything he is putting into the model is hindsight. And he's saying, I need more in order to make my bullshit work. And we're saying, no, we're testing the predictive ability of this model. And he's like, well, without all the data, the model doesn't work. And all I'm saying now is I was prepared to model it. It's like, well, who gives a crap what you do with 2020 hindsight in terms of your model? If you're saying it's got any sort of predictive capabilities, it should be able to predict things. And so far, not so good, mate.
Well, I'm going to call him a liar because I don't think he's got any maths to support the ray traces that he showed, because it wouldn't have been difficult for him to pick any of the ray traces and ask me which one would I agree with, and I'd have picked one of them that best fitted the evidence. And then he'd say, right, these are the variables that we've put into the condition calculator thing that he's created to get this particular ray trace. And I thought he'd have been dead proud to show that. And instead he's backtracked and said that he didn't agree to make a prediction. He agreed that he would model it. Well, I'm calling bullshit. I don't think you have modeled it. I think that you've drawn the lines and there's no maths to support any of the lines. Why? Because you don't know how to do it. Oh, and he also said that I wouldn't be qualified to challenge it because I'm a moron or whatever. Well, guess what? That makes him the one that's qualified to prove it, right? So that puts the burden on him even worse, and it reduces it off me. So yeah, I might not be qualified, Rumpus, but you're the one that claims that your model's got predictive capabilities.
Hey, Stephen.
Yo.
Welcome back.
I will reiterate John's point again, which is to say that the only reason you use a model is if you have a limitation on your hypothesis. The hypothesis being expression of the cause and effect relationship in an experiment. So we don't have limitations in science for any other reason than to get valid results. That's why those limitations are in place. The fact that they need to use a model means it is no longer science, it's pseudoscience. So win, lose or draw, even if Rumpus was able to predict it perfectly, it would prove absolutely nothing in regards to the shape of the Earth.
Yeah, that's what the point of verifying the prediction is all about. You verify that it matches the observation.
No,
Yeah,
that's not a
predictive
scientific
capability.
prediction, though. You have to have a scientific prediction is a scientific hypothesis. Where's the hypothesis at?
Yeah, pseudoscience is what we're dealing with here. In terms of models, we are humouring these guys because it's not proving anything. This is a pseudoscience model.
Yeah, exactly. He indicted himself as soon as the word model and prediction came out of his mouth. It's over. He just might as well, pour more gasoline on his matches.
Right.
Yeah, they've got faith. Faith in R. That's what it all boils down to.
You've got faith in a fairy tale.
Yes,
It's
fairy tale known as
radial-based
R.
assumption.
The radius. This is what it's all based on.
It's all radial-based assumption.
Yeah. That's where the fantasy begins. Yeah, that's what we're after, guys. Proof of R.
Rumpus in Wonderland.
Mumble, mumble.
What Stephen hasn't said anything the whole hangout. What's he think about all this?
Well, I think that the rumpus is basically equal to those of people who think that they can predict the end of the world and then change the goalpost when it doesn't happen.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about next, guys?
Well, I want to know when Anthony's going to do his footage.
Well, after the 24 hours, right?
48 hours. So it'll be tomorrow's hangout.
Okay.
Yeah, but now 24. So.
A little less than 24 because we did it in the morning, right? So 18 hours from now, tomorrow morning.
Did Bob not want it for Globebusters?
I've not had anything back, but with the conference being on, I'm not sure we're highest on the list at the moment.
Well, I'm just really excited to see what kind of a splash this makes in the overall conversation because it's really outstanding footage. It's the best of its kind that I've seen. Certainly.
Well, Sandra got in the paper, P900 Cool Pics.
Oh, did she?
She was in the local Evening Gazette about the Flat Earth video to see in the Isle of Man.
Really? So which local paper was that?
That's the Blackpool Evening Gazette. So it's like the Foul Coast. Goes out to about, I don't know, 300,000 people perhaps.
Cool.
Is she local to you then?
Yeah. I mean, she sent me the link.
Have you met her?
Who's Sandra? Yeah, of course I have.
I don't know. No course about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Anthony's met her too.
Are you from Blackpool, Ranty?
I am, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So how is the article? Is it neutral, positive, or negative?
Let me find it. Just bear with me. Yeah, they didn't even credit her with it, by the way.
Yeah. It wasn't Sandra that tipped them off. It was somebody else.
It was Jamie that told us that it was even there.
Jamie Brown.
Yeah.
Trying to get in.
So who did they credit with it?
Nobody.
Oh, they just said someone took this footage and it exists? Or?
Hang on. Let me share it with I'll share it with you, Nathan and Anthony, if anyone wants to show it.
Yeah, if one of you can pop it up on screen, that'd be great.
There you go, Anthony. If you look in the Skype chat, you should see it there.
Yeah, I have seen it, and I was gobsmacked that somebody didn't. Well, she didn't get credited. Whoever it was didn't credit Sandra for the work. That's terrible.
Can you put it up on screen, Anthony?
I can't be asked moving, mate.
What?
Can you pop it up, Ranty?
Yeah, hang on. Let me get rid of all my porn. Hang on. Right, where are we? Was it that one? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Let me know when you're seeing it.
Yeah.
So this was from the Blackpool Gazette. Somebody wrote this article. It was on Sandra's video. It says, flat Earth theorists have long cited Blackpool as evidence that we are living on a gigantic disk. Members of the Flat Earth Network say video footage of Blackpool's horizon showing the offshore wind farm and Isle of Man prove that the Earth is indeed flat, despite popular scientific opinion that it is spherical. It's interesting that they use the word opinion, actually.
Yeah, that's very promising.
Rather than...
It's kind of
that's scientific opinion. What is that?
Yeah, it's actually contradiction in terms.
It's more fairly worded than most articles that we've seen.
Yeah, but straight away it makes me cringe when they say disk. I don't think we live on a disk.
Yeah. Wait, so, and the Flat Earth Network, I mean, I don't know if Sandra's actually part of the Flat Earth Network. However, anyway, it says a spokesman said the wind turbines are 30 miles away and the Isle of Man is 65 miles away. I wonder who the spokesman was. Neither should be seen from Blackpool if we are on a globe. But experts say the unusual view was caused by a combination of warm weather and cold sea temperatures affecting the curve. Clearly, that must have been Rumpus that was the expert they went to.
The curve of life.
What we're seeing here is a mirage.
Dr. Megan Argo, astronomy lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire, said this is a beautiful example of the bending of light caused by a temperature inversion, often referred to as a mirage. Normally, due to the curvature of the Earth, you could not see more than a few miles out to sea when standing at sea level on a beach, so the island would not have been visible from the beach most of the time. The image of the Isle of Man behind the wind turbines is caused by light rays from the island being bent by a warm layer of air sitting over a colder layer. Warmer air has a lower density than cold air. This changes the refractive index of the air and literally changes the speed of light within that layer. The recent spell of unseasonably warm weather for April, combined with the normal cold sea temperatures at this time of year, to provide the perfect conditions for producing this type of optical effect.
So what they're saying is you've got one layer that the light is refracted. It's not changing the speed of light, but it's refracted once. So according to their mathematics with standard refraction, you've got infinite numbers of layers of refraction change.
Essentially, yeah. That's what it looks like.
According to hers, there's one layer that you get one... Light moves in straight lines, people. Let's just establish that first. If it is refracted, it simply changes direction. And if you've got one layer changing its direction, then essentially all it's done is change the angle of the light once. It's not bending around the curve of the Earth based on that description.
Well, that was the article. At least it, it's making some kind of, any kind of article on flat Earth is good.
Yeah, definitely.
The disappointing thing, like I said, was that first that they didn't credit Sandra with it, and secondly that they seem to have made it out like they've had spoken to somebody by saying a spokesman said, an expert say, but there's no sort of like quantitative proof of who actually was the expert or the spokesman. But still,
yeah, it's not a very good journalism at that.
Yeah, the spokesman was Flat Earth Reset and the expert was Rumpus.
Yeah, if you're a flat earther, then you're a spokesperson. If you're a baller, then you're an expert.
But anyway, I mean, the fact that it made it to the Gazette anyway, just the video itself, and Sandra hasn't really promoted it. The fact that it actually made it all its way to print and to actually come online in the Gazette, it's a step forward,
Definitely. I mean, Top's getting onto the local Isle of Man radio news network station online. You know, that was what we got. But still, this is definitely better.
It's great. It's good. It's very good. Can't hurt.
And the other thing is, though, the video doesn't work.
Bummer.
But it didn't
I
work
wonder why
before.
that is. Has the video been taken down by the...
It would seem so, yeah. I mean, when Sandra sent me the link, it wasn't working anyway. She basically give fair use to anybody to use the video, so it must be something in the music that she's playing.
Or they took it from the wrong source. They took it from someone who'd mirrored it, and then they took it down.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Maybe because someone could shoot them a message and they could amend the situation. You know, but whatever.
Well, Sandra did. She put a comment on saying that it's her video and it can be viewed at such a place.
Okay.
So she has got it up there. But yeah, good stuff.
I put the link out for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, go on then.
Right, who's ready to play whack-a-mole?
I'm ready.
Come on, fastest finger first.
Whack-a-troll.
I'm gonna swat them like an ant. Like with an E.
Whack-a-troll, yeah.
Just like my icon. I'm gonna squash them like orcs.
No, it might not be trolls that come in. We might get somebody who provides us with the most breathtaking, amazing globe Earth proof you've ever seen. You just don't know.
And then we can all go home.
Exactly. Then we can give this nonsense up. You know, debating about the obvious and observable nature of our reality, which is that we live on a plane. You know, stop talking to these religious zealots who think they live on a ball and assert it simply because they assume are. You know, we can get on with our lives if they actually proved it, and we'd stop knocking them for assuming it.
Well, let's get Wiggles in here.
Yeah, man.
Where has he
Poked
been?
over the horizon.
That poor guy.
That poor guy. Because, you know, if you came to this blind, and Spurs has obviously dropped him right in it, Spurs is obviously not the man to get on the wrong side of. You know what I mean? He's dropped him right in with all of us lot, and he's gone, look, man, you guys are really this stupid. You can prove it like this. Let me show you with a diagram. Here's a boat, right? When it goes over the curve of the earth, you're like, you having us on?
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was like a romper room diagram.
Just threw right in the Shark Tank.
Nah, he's just 2 years behind.
Spurs must have done that on purpose. He must have a beef with that guy or something, or he just wanted to be humiliated because that was ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of funny. I mean, like I say, poor guy.
Yeah, maybe he's not come back because he's now actually in his month sleeplessness, watching flat Earth videos, realizing that it is flat.
Yeah, I bet you he comes back next month and he's a flat Earther. The guy seemed to have like a kind of like wide-eyed sort of innocence about him, you know? Maybe he's an honest man.
Hello, Dave. Can you hear us?
Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Dave,
hello, good to have you.
I'm here. Check, check. Hello.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Nice to be here.
What side of the fence are you on then? Are you on the ball or are you on the flat?
I'm on the rounded side.
Ooh, cool.
The rounded side of the fence?
Yeah. The fence is curved.
Have you got any fence curving proof?
Actually, the reason I wanted to pop in, I know we're near the end of the show, but I was just wanting to maybe propose a solution to this whole thing about, you know, Rumpus and his diagram versus Riley and his photo.
Okay.
In terms, so I think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but because this thing's getting all sort of twisted in all the conversations, but at some point, wasn't from Riley part of the challenge was for Rumpus to present, you know, some sort of model or you know, whatever prediction, yes, to be, and he was supposed to give the time of day when it would happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
There was something about like, oh, there's a certain time window and that type of thing, right? There was that part of that conversation.
Okay, well, let's assume that that was the case. What would your go between method be?
Okay, so my point is, it's actually backtracking a little bit and trying to have a proper sequence of events. So my proposal of the sequence of events is Riley provides Rumpus with the data in terms of, let's say, the temperature, the location. We know the viewer heights, 1 foot, 1 meter, whatever, basically very low to the grounds, right? So there's those values, right? So we're happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah, but he already knows the results.
No. Let's just listen to his proposal.
So the proposal, based on giving Rumpus those quote unquote parameters, Rumpus can go off and plug that into his model or his simulator, his ray tracer, and he comes up with a result, right? Like the generated image.
Yeah.
So he then presents that image. So Riley hasn't had to produce anything yet. Rumpus presents his finished image of what he thinks should be seen, and then Riley presents the photo of what was actually seen, and then make the determination: does it match? Like, doesn't that seem
he already knows
logical?
the results, though. I told him what the results were.
Well, you're sort of talking about like the floaty land and that type of stuff, but if you give him accurate numbers and he ends up with a rendering, that's, you know what I mean? Like he would have to show he's put in the numbers you gave him, so there's no sort of fudging of numbers, right?
But then it's no longer a prediction. If we tell him all the numbers, he's not making a prediction anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
But his simulator is making the prediction. His ray tracing is making a prediction of what you should see.
Just simulating conditions.
You mean the temperature, the humidity level,
right?
That thing.
Right. So he's not making.
You don't think these can be adjusted after the fact?
No, because he'll present his finished render first.
The point is he shows what conditions would be necessary to produce these results based on his absolute, unequivocal, 100% accurate model. That's the challenge.
But you understand?
We're not testing to see is Rumpus right. We're testing, is he able to predict the way he claims that he is?
But if you don't let him generate one, how can you know if it's accurate?
Yeah, he still needs to insert that data. Yeah, that is kind of correct.
Understand that he's been given the results though, so he's not generating something
just as in a verbal sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You gave descriptions. That's not detailed data that you would actually require to have all the specific refraction indexes.
Listen, I'd agree with what you're saying if he wasn't told anything about the results, because then we could give him the date, the time, the elevation details, the temperature. We could give him all them and make the prediction, right? But that would only work if he didn't know what the result was. We've given him the result. All we're asking for is what variables did he alter to make it work.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. Also, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!